Good evening. EU Ambassador to Armenia, Andrեա Վիկտորին, is my guest tonight. Madam Ambassador, thank you for sitting down with the public TV.
It's a pleasure always to be with you.
Madam Ambassador, let's get right down to business. After the September aggression against Jermuk, the Armenian authorities requested the deployment of the EU mission along Armenia-Azerbaijan border. In the estimation of the authorities of Armenia, the risk of escalation remains high. What is the role of the EU mission in preventing another aggression?
Well, the EU mission in Armenia is one component of the European efforts to supporting peace in the region. And to put facts clearly, it is a non-armed civilian mission. And currently the international staff is up to 58. We are building up the mission, and let's say the number of staff members will be around 103. So their task is to observe the international border between Armenia and Azerbaijan from Armenian territory. So what does it mean? It means observation and then reporting back to the EU services in Brussels. On a second point, it is contributing to human security in conflict-affected areas of Armenia, means they reach out to the population in the border villages. And the third idea is contributing by the permanent and visible presence on the ground to build confidence and to help to facilitate a peace solution. So I want to, because there were so many misunderstandings, to underline this last element. If they are contributing to confidence building, it is necessary that they are transparent and neutral in their position, and that's exactly what is our aim. And this means they are doing the patrols, which we will always share with the Armenian contact point, and at a certain point also with the Azeri side. This is a question of transparency and security. And then they do the patrols and they report back to Brussels, both to the services and to the member states. Not, to make it quite clear, not to the Armenian side, who accompanies the monitors, and not to the Azeri side.
Madam Ambassador, in the Armenian society, the presence of the EU mission is perceived as a political support, as a political presence of the EU that is assumed to prevent an escalation. Do you believe that the EU mission's presence will prevent an escalation?
As I said, the EU mission in Armenia is a part of our component to support peace in the region. And I am confident that the presence of the EU mission on the ground helps first to reduce the tension and to support all the other efforts that are undertaken by the European Union.
CSTO offered sending a mission to Armenia-Azerbaijan border as well in case Armenia agrees to a CSTO mission. Does that mean we shall lose the EU mission?
You see, I'm not speculating. The EU mission is here on the request of the Armenian government. It works, and that's what I see will happen in the future.
So unless the Armenian government asks it to leave, it will stay. Did I get you right?
Well, for the time being, we have an agreement. We are now working on the details. As I said, I will not speculate about the future.
Madam Ambassador, is the EU for or against a corridor through Syunik? Another much discussed issue in our society.
The European Union supports the idea to work on connectivity in the region. I think this is a very important topic, to open up connectivity routes. This means, and we offered our support to discuss this issue, also to raise and to discuss existing concerns, to come to a solution that is a benefit for all sides. And therefore, we stand ready to do more. This was offered by the President of the European Council, Michel. In the same time, naturally, such connectivity connection cannot be an extraterritorial solution.
Which is exactly what Baku means when they say a corridor. So the EU is against an extraterritorial corridor.
For an understanding taken by Armenia and Azerbaijan in the respect of the Armenian territorial integrity.
How will the EU help Armenia preserve its territorial integrity besides statements and resolutions that Baku keeps ignoring, by and large?
The European Union, and this is done via the President of the European Council, via the High Representative Borrell, and the EU Special Representative Toivo Klar, are trying to bring both sides together to help to find a solution that is for the benefit of both countries. And we are deeply convinced that only negotiations can help to create peace and stability in the region. Violence is never an option.
Are you saying that the EU is not willing to go beyond facilitation even if there is an asymmetry of powers between the sides?
Right now, we were never asked to do anything else. We are facilitating the idea of peace and stability here in the region.
There's another issue that is much discussed right now in both the political field and in society. The EU and Iran both want Armenia to preserve its territorial integrity, but we also know that there's a tension of relations between the collective West and Iran. However, we would like to know if the EU will be against if Armenia cooperates with Iran to keep its borders intact.
It is very clear.
Since here the interests coincide, obviously.
The European Union wants to have stability and peace in the region. And we are not in concurrence with any other international players. This was said several times also regarding other players in the region. So everything that contributes to peace and stability is welcomed by us.
Russia offered the following formula of resolving the NK conflict. The peacekeepers get to stay on the ground. The issue of NK status is left for the future. A frozen conflict is in essence what Russia offers. We would like to know what is the EU's perspective or formula for resolving the NK conflict. Is there such one?
You see, the European Union offered to facilitate and to support negotiations between Armenia and Azerbaijan. The European Union wants to have a sustainable solution in the region. However, the content of a peace agreement has to be negotiated between the two conflict partners. So,
even if one side uses the language of threats?
I think it can only be solved via negotiations at a negotiation table. So we were not asked to offer the solution. This is the question, but this is in every mediation effort, that the conflict partners have to agree on a solution. We stand ready to facilitate, and we are very much in favor of bringing both sides together to solve all the outstanding issues.
You see, months ago, Prime Minister Pashinyan said the international community expects Armenia to lower the bar of the status of NK. Russia obviously makes no such statement because they want the status to be left for the future. So I would like to ask, is it the EU that expects Armenia to, in essence, recognize Artsakh as part of Azerbaijan? Or did I get something wrong?
Well, the European Union made it quite clear that we welcome direct contacts between Azerbaijan and Nagorno-Karabakh. And in the same time, we made quite clear, again, it was within statement, it was in direct contacts of President Michel, that the rights and the security of the Armenian population needs to be respected and guaranteed. And therefore, again, we come back, it needs a negotiation on how to proceed.
But they are not, Madam Ambassador. I'm sure you know very well about the situation of Lachin Corridor. I mean, Azerbaijan has made it clear on the ground they're not going to respect or grant the people of Artsakh their basic rights. What's the EU stance on this?
Well, the EU stance was clear. We said the Lachin Corridor needs to be opened and the free movement of people and goods needs to be ensured.
And if this call keeps on being ignored, will there be consequences for Baku?
Well, I think, as I said, we think we facilitate, and there were constant phone calls and contacts, and I think the message was passed to both sides.
Madam Ambassador, let's move forward to EU-Armenia Relations, the SEPA agreement. What stage are the works at?
Well, I think we make really progress. First of all, with the full ratification of SEPA, we open new chapters. We are cooperating in a lot of fields. We had the first ever political and security dialogue with Armenia, I think quite an important step. But we are also moving in areas of common cooperation, for example, in the field of education. There we make great progress. And what it is important is that we have, let's say, an intensified dialogue on specific topics and chapters of the SEPA agreement, both with the authorities but also with civil society. And we attach great importance also to include civil society into the discussion. We have now, since September last year, we have the SEPA implementation civil society platform who will follow up let's say, the progress of implementation and also make their own comments.
How satisfying is the dynamics and the rhythm of the works carried out?
I think, given the difficult situation, I respect highly the engagement of both civil society and the official side really to progress in the cooperation with the European Union. And we make progress in important reform processes, but also, let's say, in the support of human rights, rule of law and democracy in Armenia.
The European Union pledged 2 and 6 billion euros in various financial tools to Armenia to Syunik region inclusive, a pledge that has a security component in it. What stage are the projects at?
Well, perhaps I'll repeat once again, the economic and investment plan is an offer, and it is, let's say, work in progress, because we have identified several flagships which we work on. We make quite a lot of progress in the field of support for small and medium-sized enterprises. Just on Friday, we had a conference on the EU for Business EBRD credit line, which really gives loans to small and medium-sized companies. I think Team Europe initiative, which is also part of the flagship on resilience unit, is an important step forward, which means 55 million over 5 years. And the specific added value of this program is to combine grants by the EU, loans by the EIB, and work together with EU member states plus Switzerland. So I think this is also a signal that we attach great importance to the cooperation with UNIC. We are quite, as I said before, active in the field of education, which is important for the future of your country.
The EU and Armenia have been negotiating visa liberalization. What stage is visa liberalization at, Madam Ambassador?
Well, we have right now, and this is in function, the EU-Armenia visa facilitation agreement. And I know there were certain concerns by people who wanted to apply for visa. I think the member states are working on this really to make things easier. In order to come to a negotiation on the visa liberalization agreement, we need first to start the visa liberalization dialogue. This needs the consent and the agreement of 27 member states, and
a tough task.
A tough task, yes. But I know that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is more active to reach out to member states to explain the position, and I'm hopeful that we will, at a certain stage, get the green light to start the dialogue.
What else can Armenia do to become an even more valuable partner to the EU?
I think Armenia is a very valuable partner to the EU, and we show this. What I would suggest, and I think in such a difficult situation, it is important, you see, to define your own interest. Because when you define your interest, you develop a vision for the future of Armenia, and this is needed. And this makes it then easier to cooperate. And on another topic, I would say it is really necessary to work on, let's say, the hate speech I see on social media, because this is polluting the atmosphere. This creates fear for and concerns for the population, and it is not helpful. It is necessary to build bridges, even if it is very difficult, and certain actions are definitely not helpful. So let me refer to the beating of this Azeri soldier that was taken, was arrested. I think this is not acceptable. Violence is not acceptable. And the other thing that was not acceptable over this weekend was the attempt to burn the Azeri flag. This was something which was regrettable because I know that the Armenian authorities undertook great effort to secure these weightlifting championship, and this action really spoiled it. So I think I was happy to see certain reactions by human rights defenders, but to burn a flag is never a solution, and it is not acceptable. So let's go on the positive side, try to build bridges, try to reach out, and try to make the effort really to work on confidence-building measures. The European Union stands by your side, and we are supporting also track 2 discussions to really get a better understanding on the way to facilitate a peace agreement.
Madam Vיקտորին, since you mentioned the episode with the burning of the flag, the person who did it without justifying what was done, he explained it by the fact that dozens of prisoners are being kept in Baku. The EU managed to bring a number of prisoners successfully back to their homeland. What else can the EU do to bring back the rest of them?
Well, we are still working on convincing Azerbaijan to release more of the prisoners. This is a constant topic when there are discussions, and we will never give up. And this I also tell, let's say, the relatives who come and visit me, that we are really trying to help to solve all the humanitarian issues. However, this is not acceptable to burn the flag. So I think there we have to make a separation. And as I said, what we want to do, we want to help positively to solve the issue. And I am the first one to know how daring the humanitarian situation is.
Well, how do Baku authorities respond to your requests concerning the prisoners of war, since we know that they are mistreated and tortured in Baku prisons?
Well, there is an international mechanism, and this is observed. There is a possibility for the International Red Cross to visit the prisoners. They do so, and they also bring the link to the relatives. So at least this is followed up by international organizations. What we can do is we can appeal to them, and we have not given up to try to get back all the prisoners.
Madam Vיקտորին, you're months away from stepping down as the EU's ambassador to Armenia. What's the next on your political career?
I will retire.
List.
I will. This is my last posting, and and then I will look for other opportunities. But right now I'm here, I'm still in full speed, and afterwards I will think what I do when I leave Armenia.
Thank you one more time for this opportunity.
Thank you.
The EU Ambassador Andrեа Վիկտորին was my guest tonight.